a stranger with a gun came upon 2 teens taking pictures under a rising full moon. But violence is only the beginning of this story.
Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and I've spent my career talking about how lives are undone by violence. The Letter is a podcast about how lives are remade. Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Amy, so you're in bed, you're drinking alcohol, you're eating cereal, you're watching Friends, and you decide it's time to go to rehab again. Is that how it happened?
No, actually, it wasn't even rehab again. I decided it was time to do something different. So I did not go to treatment again. I started applying for travel nursing jobs. I decided I needed to leave.
So you were a nurse by trade?
Mm-hmm. And so knowing that staying in the same environment, running into the same people, living in the same house was all just triggering and emotionally draining, I started applying and in my head told myself, Hawaii. I'll go to Hawaii and that's it. And Hawaii is not an easy travel gig to get, especially in December. And I was getting offers from Arkansas and South Dakota and, miserable places that I just kept
South
turning
Dakota
down.
in December sounds nice.
Ooh, in Arkansas.
I know.
We've got
I
listeners in
probably missed
Arkansas.
out. I know I missed out. And I someday hope to enjoy all that Arkansas has to offer. But
I bought a car in Arkansas once.
That sounds like a Johnny Cash song.
It should have been.
Just to see it run.
Yeah.
So I waited. I held out for Hawaii. And one day I was walking in 19-degree weather through Springville, past some fields, crying, wondering, what, I had to leave I would go on walks just to get out of the house, just to get out of my head, because it was that or drinking. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I got a call from an 808 number, and it was a lady in Hawaii that interviewed me right then, offered me a job, asked if I could start 4 days later. And I packed up, told my kids I was leaving for 4 months, and was gone by December 21st. Spent Christmas in Hawaii alone.
Wow.
Now, did you tell them that you had a drinking problem, or did you just use this as your recovery?
They knew. My kids at that point had gone through this enough with me that though I thought I was hiding things well, I remember one day, you know how you get. You're hiding it in cereal boxes that are stuffed in garbage sacks that are stuffed in laundry bags that, you're just everything you can to hide. I walked out to my garage one day and there was just a bottle sitting right in front of my car. Like one of my kids was saying, we know you're doing it. And none of them ever fessed up to who had set the bottle there. And I just remember staring at that going, what am I doing? It didn't stop me, but I knew that they knew. So when I told them I had gotten this job or had been offered this job in Hawaii, then I started having all these thoughts like, do I do this? Do I leave my kids again? Like, this is, what kind of mother does this? This sounds like I'm taking a vacation instead of trying to deal with my life. And my daughter was 13 at the time, and there was an Instagram post of a girl standing on top of a mountain in Hawaii, and her caption was, "You'll never regret the decision to move to Hawaii." And my daughter tagged me in it and then just called and said, you need to go. And so
that gave me chills.
I can't believe I just told that story without crying. That's the first time I ever have. That was when I knew that this wasn't just an accident. This was a God moment saying, this is your chance. Do not blow it. You get 4 months.
And the kids were supportive. They knew you needed something
Absolutely.
to change.
They helped me pack. They did not cry once. I'm sobbing, hugging them goodbye, and they're like, just go, And I drove my car to L.A. to get it on a boat to Hawaii and cried the whole way and wondered, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing?
Do you remember buying this car?
This was the car that I actually had to repossess from the second ex-husband. So, I vividly remember buying that car. I hated that car.
So you put the car on a transporter in L.A., and on December 21st, you show up to the Aloha State.
Yep. Got off the plane and just started sobbing. Hawaii had always been my runaway. Like, I had gone many, many times just to find peace. It's a special place. And the minute I got off that plane, I knew that's where I was supposed to be. that was my second chance at recovery. And it's interesting because I'm all alone. Nobody knows my story. Nobody knows anything. Hard alcohol is sold at every gas station. You walk it. You don't have to go to the liquor store. You don't have to put on your hoodie. You don't have to, worry about people seeing you. It was right in front of me everywhere I went. And so it was a daily decision that that's not what I needed, and learning to just find my peace and my solace in nature and hikes and whale watching and helping these cute little, locals at the hospital that I worked at instead of going to a bottle. So it was a whole different, I went to rehab, but it was unconventional.
So how did you do it? Because I think a lot of people think to themselves they want to be able to have the same control you do. But I think the difference is, and I noticed that when I talk to people, is that you wanted it this time.
I needed it this time. I knew that, like I said, I had been suicidal up until that point, and there was so much noise in my head. And when I finally got to Hawaii and that noise stopped, I knew I would do whatever it took to keep that noise away. And so I lived with this funky little old 70-something-year-old lady who was, she's an acupuncturist. She was a follower of Osho. I don't know if you remember Rajid from the 70s. He was the sex cult that came to Oregon, and they poisoned all the salad bars. And anyway, she was a devout follower of him, and she was just wacky. And she taught me so much about just being present, about enjoying the land, about meditation, about quiet.
Did you ever eat a salad at her house?
I hope not.
I'd be like, hot stick sandwich, no lettuce.
No, I actually didn't. But that's a good question. I made my own salads, but I never accepted any she offered. It was one of those things where everything just fell into place. You don't usually move across an ocean not knowing a soul. I did not know I was going to live with her till the day I got there. I drove up, we met, and she said, sure, this will fit.
Do you remember a time or a moment that clicked where you went, I think I can do this? This feels right. Yeah,
100%. I had been on the big, so I had to fly to Honolulu to get my nursing license, and then I flew over to the Big Island, and that's where I lived. And somebody had told me about King Kamehameha's birthplace, and that you could take this little trail to this sacred ground where he was born, and it's just actually a field with kind of a rock wall that overlooks the ocean, and it's whale season, and took me about 5 miles, I think, to get there. And I'm just sitting there, and there's not another soul there. And you're in this special, sacred ground. And I was just sitting there watching whales and thinking, life can't get better than this. Honestly, this is so calm and so peaceful, and that I can take this wherever I want. This isn't just a place. This is now something that's inside of me, and I can take this home, and I can take this with me everywhere. And that was maybe less than a month in, being there for about 4 months, and it changed my perspective on everything.
So after 4 months in Hawaii, you're set to come back home. You had to be scared, had to be anxious, had to be a lot of things.
I sobbed just as hard getting on the plane to come home as I did leaving my kids. If I didn't have 4 kids in Utah, I don't know that I ever would have come back, because it had been such a healthy, happy place for me. And like you said, there was debt. There was the risk of running into people. There was, facing people that I had been able to run away from for 4 months. There was then having to find a job out here and remake myself. And Utah's a tiny little pond. Everybody knows everything. Not to mention I blog about it, so I throw everything on the internet. There's no secrets. I was terrified to come back. And I was sad at first. I was happy to be with my kids, but I wanted to go back so bad, just because no noise, no drama. But like I said, I had learned I could take it with me, and that's what I started doing when I started meditating. I had a special spot in Hawaii where I would do all my meditating, and so I learned to just, on those hard days, close my eyes, get myself back there for 5 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it took, and then get back up and do it again.
So in addition to meditation, were there other skills you used to stay sober? There was a desire, obviously, You made a connection emotionally with that peaceful feeling and we call those moments of realization or insight, where a lot of times we know things in life, but we don't realize them. They don't become part of us. Anybody knows that cigarettes will kill you because it says, hey, moron, these will kill you on the side of the package, right? But how many people take up smoking every year? In fact, I think amongst teenagers, it's on the rise right now. So that's the difference between knowledge and insight. We know it'll kill us. We still smoke the cigarettes. You had a moment of insight where you realized, I could take this with me, this peaceful feeling. You have meditation. What other tools would you say? Because you said it was an unconventional recovery, but I want people to maybe connect with what you did, and I don't want it to sound too magical. It must have been hard.
Oh, it was hard. There's a lot of isolation, and one of the things they say is, the opposite of addiction is connection. And when I was in Hawaii, I was very much isolated. I had friends or coworkers, but it wasn't like I had any real connections there.
And the sex cult lady.
And I mean, yes, sex cult lady, yes, yeah. But we didn't have quite as much connection as she might have wanted. But coming back, that was something that's honestly until very recently was hard for me to break out of, was that isolation. Because I like to be. But
don't you think that played an important role? Because when a person goes to rehab of any kind, that is a type of isolation. Mm-hmm. You're connecting with people there, but you're removing yourself. Like you said, I felt like I needed to get out of this place, out of this house, away from these relationships. So moving across the ocean accomplished that. Mm-hmm. So do you recommend to people finding some ways to isolate? I mean, we do. That is kind of the opposite of what we talk about a lot here on the show, but it sounds like it played a role for you.
It played a huge role for me, and I had to be really careful and find the fine balance there, because when I isolate, I also tend to, get inside my own head and then let myself go back down that road. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I would recommend isolation as a tool, but a change of scenery, definitely.
The term I think I would use would be separation versus isolation. Isolation sounds kind of lonely, right? And you can get in your own head. But you were separating yourself from, toxic relationships, unhealthy environments. We talk a lot about triggers. Yep. You said you'd been in your house for 2 months just drinking and being suicidal. So that everything from the bedroom to the house, everything can be a time of day. Those can be triggers.
I had to move out right when I got back from Hawaii, found a new place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I actually isolated from my friends for quite a while too, family, everybody. And it wasn't in a unhealthy way. I mean, it felt unhealthy to them. They felt like I was isolating them. But in a lot of ways, it was just me being me, working on me. It was, can I be alone? Am I okay alone?
So you were separated from them, but you weren't just hunkering down. You were doing healthy things.
Yeah.
What were some of those things?
Tons of reading, like I said, meditating. I love hiking, and I would go out and hike by myself just to think. And I didn't want people to hike with me, because then it was conversations, and I didn't want conversations. I wanted
introspection.
And yeah, that's exactly. So I used isolation. I used separation as a tool. I hate isolation, like I said, because it's something we totally try to shy away from when we're teaching people how to deal with addiction, is to use that connection, use a support system, people you trust, people you can call when you need that reinforcement. But for me personally, separation from all the things that had triggered me, including family, friends, whatever, things that, led to that. I did remove myself for a solid year. I did not date for 3 years.
Was that helpful, not dating?
Absolutely. That was the best thing I've ever done for myself.
Why is that?
Because I was able to completely get over the trauma of, not completely, I guess. I don't know that you ever completely. But I was able to go to a therapist and see why I allowed that kind of relationship to rule my life, see what kinds of things that I needed to improve, and really, really, really learn to be happy alone. I mean, I would go home, I wouldn't cry myself to sleep. I didn't, there wasn't these moments where I would just sit in a corner lonely and think, I just wish I had somebody. I truly got to a point where I was content with who I was, just the way I was.
And that's so powerful. I think that too often as we grow up, we we learn to rely on other people to set our mood and to comfort us and to ground us. And that can get way out of hand, especially for any of our listeners who've been in a toxic relationship. They know that can get way out of control. And so learning to be happy with yourself on your own is a type of peace that, unless you've had to go through that process, it's hard to describe. It's a healthy thing.
But you did have someone, and that someone is a therapist. I want to talk about that for a minute, because I don't think a lot of people know the importance of a great therapist. And I'm not just trying to bolster you, Matt, but I think a good therapist is really worth its weight in gold. And it sounds like you found somebody that really helped you in your recovery. How many times did you see a therapist?
Well, I tried therapy probably 3 different times and never connected. I think that's an important thing to point out, that just because you don't connect the first time doesn't mean therapy doesn't work for you.
It's a quack.
I
hear that all the time.
Right.
Sure.
People go, I went to a therapist, and that guy was full of it. He didn't know. He doesn't understand me.
I mean, sometimes, it's like a dentist. If you go to a bad dentist, you just say, I'm done with dentistry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you find a better dentist, right? Because you want to keep your teeth.
That took a while for me.
Yeah.
I would go to one, it wouldn't feel right, wouldn't connect, and I'd be like, I can't do this.
And sometimes it is the connection. I mean, I think one of the questions I get from people, that they'll ask for a referral, and I'll say, well, what do they do? And it comes down to the fact that I think people don't realize therapists specialize in different things. And so, just like a physician specializes in different things. So you want to find somebody that has experience working with your age group and your types of issues that you're bringing in, needing to work on. But then beyond that, there is this idea of a connection. As much as when I was a grad student, I didn't like this idea that there was a sort of art to therapy. There's a relationship component, but there is, and I'm okay with it now because I realize it's part of that healing process for a person. And so you need to find somebody who's competent and trained in the area that you need. Not all therapists are the same. They may have very different degrees and levels of training in different things. So you want to check that out, just like you would with a physician. And then you may not connect. The person may be kind of weird for you, or just flat, and it doesn't work. So finding that connection, when you get the relationship and the expertise together in one person, can be extremely helpful to a person.
Yeah.
So you found a good therapist.
I found an amazing therapist.
You still see him?
I still see her.
Yes.
That
girl was?
That was sexist.
Do you still see them? I still see her. My son actually sees her now. Almost everyone I work with sees her now, because I recommend her to everybody I come in contact with. She is in recovery, has worked a really strong recovery program. But more than that, she really helped me dig into the trauma part of my addiction, which was something that I didn't ever want to admit I had. It just, to me, it was, I was an alcoholic. It wasn't because of trauma. And so being able to dig in and get to a place where, I was really, really, really set on never dating or marrying again, and I'm engaged. So, if that doesn't tell you
Congratulations.
what she got me to do, then I don't know what does. Thank you.
Hey, you're listening to Project Recovery. We're listening to Amy McAllister's story. She's been talking a lot about her recovery and what she's done so far, but she's mentioned a lot about her blog. We're going to find out about that in just a few seconds. All right, so you've been dropping this blog tip all day long. So what is your blog, and how did it help you in your recovery?
I started my blog right when I got out of Cirque 6 years ago, and back then it was called She's Perfectly Imperfect. And my very first post was, my name is Amy and I'm an alcoholic. And it was basically to kind of shake up my community, because I had been living this perfect life on the outside, and it really was kind of a bombshell. So I started there and just kind of started talking about things that I think a huge majority of women, especially in this community, deal with and don't talk about. Once I hit my year mark, I kind of closed that down and decided that was a chapter that I was good moving on from. But then when I went through this second divorce, writing's my therapy. So I started it up again, and I named it Finding 40, because at the time I had just turned 40 and was relapsed again and moving to Hawaii. Same blog since then, changed the title to Dude, It's Fine. And
What does
philosophy.
dude, it's fine refer to?
Dude, it's fine. You know, it's as an alcoholic or an addict of any kind, it's so easy to just catastrophize things that come, and we don't know how to deal. And that's kind of a philosophy I've taken on, especially now being the director of nursing for a treatment center, and trying to help others get through it. Dude, it's fine. Like, we just got to get through right now. And we don't need to worry about tomorrow or next week or next year or even 6 months ago and what we're paying for. Like, let's just get through these 5 minutes. And so the blog initially was a lot about recovery, a lot about just everyday just hurts and aches and pains in life. Now it's turned a little bit more sarcastic, funny, just being
kind of
human.
rolling with the stressors and the things that happen in life.
And the funny things that happen and just talking about them and not being embarrassed to talk about them. I mean, I talk about things on there that I would guarantee 99% of
Give us an example of one. Come on.
So, I knew this was going to come up. Front farts.
What?
So, yeah, there's a post called Front Farts.
You had to ask.
And,
I want to know more.
You know, I highly recommend it. It's my most popular post to date. It actually got republished on another website. And believe it or not, I've had better response from men than women. So you guys think you don't front fart, but some of you do.
I think when I was in grad school, we didn't cover this. I think I missed
You didn't buy that book.
I didn't.
Well,
Wow.
let me tell you, there's a whole blog post about it.
I'm
going
gonna have to read it, educate myself.
So,
yeah.
DudeIt'sFine.com.
DudeIt'sFine.com.
Yep.
Why now? But let's talk about talking. So, why do you talk about things that 99% of the world wouldn't talk about? Like, is there value in that? Like, why would you do that?
Yes, value for me because
My grandma might say maybe we shouldn't talk about
right.
that.
Oh yes.
This
And
isn't good company conversation.
Right.
I just got engaged, and he's like, "I want my mom to read your blog," and I said, "Maybe have her start at this one and skip the first couple at first."
Don't have her start with front fart.
Please
Yeah.
don't.
But what's the benefit in that? Because it's obviously popular. People are reposting your blog, and I've heard people say this before, but I'm curious your point of view. Why should we be that open and honest?
For me, it's therapeutic for me in that it allows me to just let go of image or worrying about what other people think about me or where I'm at in my life. It's okay. I am good with me, and I can talk about front farting, and it's not to be gross. It's not gross. It's humorous. Obviously it sounds a little bit awkward.
We're okay. Gross and humorous are kind of the same, right?
I mean, it's to be able to just completely fully enjoy who I am, but also, I mean, every response I get is, "Oh my gosh, I could not stop laughing, crying, dying." I mean, I do the same thing. I didn't, the fact that you talk about it, it's just to kind of
liberating
normalize,
for people. Yeah, normalizing, liberating.
Nobody's perfect. This is the land of plastic, of perfect. I mean, Utah. I
know Casey wears Lululemon pants.
I do.
Drives
The ABC pants. Do you know what the ABC stands for? Anti-ball crushing.
Yeah.
And it's on the tag. I'm not kidding.
I thought he made that up. But,
No, it's the truth.
Okay, I have never looked into that, but maybe I'll get my fiance some of those.
He'll love you forever.
He's going to love me forever, no matter what. Just kidding.
So you find the blog very cathartic.
It's super cathartic, yes, and it opens up a community that talks. So they reach out to me and they can say, "I have been dealing with this and didn't know who to talk to," and so it's been my own little private way of getting. Strangers.
Basically, your blog is our podcast. I mean, people ask me all the time, why do you do this? Why do you put it out there? I go, because it's just so freeing to me, because then everybody knows what page I'm on and what's going on, and I don't have to have any secrecy. I mean, I just did one of the bucket list things that I thought I would never do, and that's going on a cruise where you're celebrated for drinking, where everywhere you turn, they give you a drink in your hand. And I can tell you this, I went with a great group of people. Some of them partied, some of them didn't, but I had an amazing time. And I woke up in the morning, went to the gym, I took the stairs. Listen to this, you 14 that went with me. I'm the only one that lost weight on the cruise.
I bet.
And it was so much fun. And those who enjoyed and imbibed had a great time. Those who didn't had a great time. And it was just an amazing test for me to go because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. In my heart and head, I knew I wasn't going to, but I've said that before.
Yeah.
And so to be able to go and enjoy this cruise and sit on a beach and talk with my girlfriend and experience just this whole new world, it was just amazing. And I want to come and share that with people and let them know that it is possible. And I mean, there was people on there drinking, and I'm not one of those guys to go around and go, you know what you're doing to yourself? Because I don't know what they're doing to themselves. They might be able to drink like gentlemen. They might be able to handle it. It's not my job to tell them how to live their life. If somebody wants to ask me what I'm doing, I'll gladly offer it up. But I'm not a preacher. It's not my job.
Yep.
I just want to let you know that recovery is possible. And I think that's what you do with your blog.
That's exactly. I've talked about every relapse. I've talked about every failure. I don't hide it and act like it's this perfect little step-by-step process that if you start, you're going to have, the life of your dreams. No, it's hell. And it's up and it's down and it's decisions and it's successes and it's failures. And as long as people can see that and know that that's the story of recovery, then you don't get into those shame cycles, those full-blown relapses. It's okay.
So you're now working as the director for nursing at Ardu Recovery.
Ardu Recovery in Provo.
And they've also got a detox center there. I have toured their facility. Beautiful, immaculate.
How do you spell that?
ARDU.
Yeah.
Does that stand for something?
It is, in Gaelic, it means rise up, which is why I have this tattoo here that says rise up. So that's my tribute to where I work and how much I believe in where we are and what we do there.
When we have people on from different recovery centers, and I went to Pinnacle Recovery Center and had a wonderful time there and owe so much to them. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay it back. What makes Ardu different?
One of the things is the detox. So I don't know where you detoxed or if you...
Well, so Pinnacle Recovery doesn't have a detox facility.
Uni.
Connected to it. So it's either Uni, Next Step, Provo Canyon,
yep.
Ogden Behavioral,
exactly.
Wherever we can find a place for them to detox.
Yep. So that's one thing that makes us different is that we've got a detox in-house, and so we joke that you're detoxing a spa because it is beautiful. It doesn't feel like a lockdown facility. We have 24/7 nursing, and they're nurses that I recruited every one of them from previous jobs. They're friends of mine. They've worked in the ER. They either have a personal connection with addiction or, a loved one, something, but they know what they're doing. And so we can take some of the sickest of the sick that most places would have to send to a hospital, including even like a Next Step or Provo Canyon. So we're able to take these clients that need detox and then transition them straight into a recovery program. We also work with a lot of different facilities. We work with Chateau, with Brighton, with Deer Hollow.
I know Pinnacle has sent some of our
Steps. We've worked with
our
Pinnacle.
clients there.
And we detox and send them right back. And so we do both. I mean, we're here to be part of the community, not dominate the community.
So is Ardu a 12-step?
We use 12-step, but we are not a 12-step based program. We try to use a little bit of everything. We try to use refuge, recovery, 12-step. I mean, certain things work for certain people and not everything works for everyone. We take our clients to meetings, but we also offer lots of other alternatives.
You've spoken a lot about meditation. Do you guys utilize that there?
We do. We do daily meditations. We have yoga teachers. We do sweat lodges once a week, actually. So
I want to do a sweat lodge. Will you do a sweat lodge with me, Matt?
I would
I will
do
tell
that.
you the next time we're doing a sweat lodge, and you guys come do it with
Let's
us.
do it.
Okay. I would love to do that.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very cathartic, euphoric experience, and our clinical director is very versed and knowledgeable on them, and we do them weekly, and our clients love them.
Oh, I'm excited. We need to do that.
I'm in, and we'll report back here on Project Recovery. If you could leave the listening audience with one thing from your story, what would it be?
It's never over. That's what I would just say is sometimes you feel like you're at the end of your road or that you've hit rock bottom or that, you've embarrassed too many people, you've done too much damage. It's never over. It's a story. It's going to keep going.
I love it. Dr. Matt?
I appreciate Amy's candor and telling us all about that. It's always interesting to me to speak with people that are in healthcare, and I think in the past there would have been so much shame to talk about struggling with an addiction, but it's so helpful for people in healthcare to talk about their own process and experience and journey with this. And I think we have another wonderful resource to share with our listeners. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Matt.
And I think the thing that impresses me so much about you is the way you carry yourself. From the time I met you down in the lobby to come up, it felt like I was talking to an old friend. And in the recovery, I think you're right. The opposite of addiction is connection. And I think you are so good at making that connection. And I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to share your story. And I'm going to go read Front Fart right now.
Thank you, Casey. That's all I ask.
You're listening to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction, but more importantly, about recovery. If you know somebody who needs some help, have them do what I did and give Pinnacle Recovery Center a call. Project Recovery is a KSL podcast.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.